Cliff Lyons died on a Tuesday in October. Not on a set, not in a stunt. In a hospital bed in Burbank with a blood clot nobody caught until it was done catching. He was 59 years old and had been throwing himself off horses for John Wayne since before the war. His wife, Margaret, was 54. She had $340 in a savings account, a mortgage with 11 years left on it, and no pension from any studio that had ever written her husband a check. Cliff Lyons had spent 31 years making other men look brave. That morning, a phone in the front office at Universal rang. Here is the story. Cliff Lyons came up through the rodeo circuit in the early 1930s. The kind of circuit where the prize money was always less than the entry fee and the fences were always the wrong height. He could fall off a horse the way most men can walk through a door, controlled, deliberate, completely without drama. A stunt coordinator spotted him outside Laramie in 1934 and told him there was steady work in pictures if he didn't mind getting hit by things. He didn't mind. By 1939, he was the most trusted stunt double on Republic Pictures' roster. By the time John Wayne was making cavalry pictures at Ford's Monument Valley locations, Cliff Lyons was the man who would ride through the fire gag, take the fall from the bluff, or get dragged behind the horse for the third take, because the camera angle wasn't right the first 2 times. He was not famous. He was not meant to be. He worked in the shadow of the shot, always just out of frame, just past the point where the face becomes visible. His name appeared in the credits of more than 90 films, and nobody in any theater lobby ever turned to the person next to them and said the name, Cliff Lyons. He had a house in the San Fernando Valley that Margaret had planted climbing roses along the back fence. He had 2 daughters, Donna, who was 22 and working as a secretary in Glendale, and Karen, who was 19 and finishing her 2nd year at community college. He had a dog named Sergeant that slept under the kitchen table. He had a Buick with a cracked sun visor that he kept meaning to replace. He had 31 years of mortgage payments that Margaret had made, every month, the 15th of the month, because Cliff's work wasn't always steady, and she had been keeping books on what they had and what they owed since the month they were married. The blood clot came from nowhere the doctors could point to. There was a lot of medical language that Margaret did not have the training to parse and did not ask to have explained twice. The sum of it was that Cliff Lyons went into the hospital on a Thursday and did not come back out. Margaret sat at the kitchen table the Saturday after the funeral and went through the numbers the way she had always gone through numbers. The mortgage, $87 a month. Karen's tuition, $45 a semester, but the semester was half paid. Donna helped where she could. But Donna had rent in Glendale and a salary that didn't stretch far past her own bills. There was no studio pension, not in 1966, not for stunt work. That was not how it was done. The savings account had $340. The mortgage had 132 payments left. Margaret Lyons was not a woman who asked for things. Cliff hadn't been that kind of man either. You did the work. You kept the account square. You didn't put your hand out. She had lived by that her whole adult life. And she still believed in it. Sitting at that kitchen table, in that house with the climbing roses, working through a column of numbers that did not add up to anything she could see a way through. She had contacted the studio through a union representative who meant well and got nowhere. The representative wrote a letter. The letter was answered by a legal department. The legal department was polite and specific. Cliff Lyons had been contracted as a freelance performer, not a staff employee. The studio's obligation to his estate was limited to what the contract specified, which was payment for work performed, which had been made. The letter was 2 pages long. It had been written before, with different names in it. Margaret read it at the kitchen table and put it on the stack with the mortgage statement. The union man said he would try again. He would try the guild. He would see what could be done through official channels. Official channels, in 1966, for a stuntman's widow, moved the way sediment moves in still water. Donna drove out on the weekends. Karen came home on the bus. Sargent slept under the kitchen table and waited for a man who was not coming back. The mortgage company would wait 30 days, then 60. After 60 days, Margaret understood. The tone of the letters would change. Have you ever watched someone who did everything right get left with nothing to show for it? Drop your state in the comments. I want to know how far this story reaches. John Wayne had been in a production meeting at Universal on the morning of October 19, 1966, 8 days after Cliff Lyons died. Wayne had known Cliff since the Republic years, not the way a star knows a prop man or knows a driver, the way a man knows someone he has trusted with his physical safety across 3 decades of locations and fire gags and falls. Cliff Lyons had taken the horse fall that Wayne's knee wouldn't let him take on a picture in 1952. He had done a drag sequence in 1959 that the director had wanted to cut because it looked too dangerous, and Cliff had told the director it was fine and gone ahead and done it, and it was fine. Wayne had been told about Cliff's death by his assistant. He had stopped. He had asked the assistant to confirm it. He had not said anything else for a moment. In the meeting at Universal that morning, there was a production lawyer whose name Wayne already knew. The meeting concerned scheduling. Wayne let the scheduling get resolved. Then, he asked the lawyer to stay. The lawyer stayed. What was said in that room was not written down anywhere that has since been found. What happened after it was. Wayne's business manager, Bo Ruse, contacted Universal's payroll department later that same day. A stipend was established, monthly, $300 a month, more than 3 times what the union representative had managed to extract through 2 months of letters. It was structured, through Ruse's accounting, as a professional consulting arrangement with Batjack Productions, Wayne's own production company, so that it would not appear on any studio ledger as charity and would not be reduced by any union calculation. It was backdated to the 1st of October. Wayne did not attend the meeting where it was arranged. His name did not appear on the paperwork in a way that could be easily traced. The production lawyer's name was on the paperwork. Ruse's signature was on the paperwork. The monthly check had the Batjack Productions address in the return corner and a line item description that read, Consulting, Pre-Production Research. Margaret Lyons received the first check on November 3, 1966. She opened it at the kitchen table. The amount on the check was $600, 2 months, backdated. She read it. She read it again. She called the number on the letterhead. A woman in Ruse's office explained the arrangement to her in terms of the consulting agreement. Margaret asked whose decision it had been. The woman said she wasn't able to say. Margaret thanked her and hung up and sat at the kitchen table for a long time without moving. The checks came every month for 11 years. Margaret made the last mortgage payment in June of 1977 and sat at that same kitchen table with a canceled check in her hand and the climbing roses through the window behind her, and did not cry, because she had decided not to, and was the kind of woman who kept those decisions. Donna was married by then. Karen had finished a nursing program in 1971 and was working at Northridge Hospital. Both of them had been through the years when the checks came, and neither of them had ever been told with certainty whose decision that had been. In 1978, Karen Lyons, Karen Whitfield by then, married to a man who worked for the city water department, told her daughter, who was 7 years old, about her grandfather Cliff. She told her about the 31 years and the 90 pictures, and the name in the credits that nobody ever said out loud in a theater lobby. She told her about the table and the numbers that didn't add up. She told her about the check that came on November 3rd and kept coming month after month until the house was paid and the account was square. She said she didn't know for certain who had made the call, but Karen had been 19 in 1966. She remembered what kind of man her father had talked about when he came home from locations. She remembered the way Cliff Lyons said a particular name, not like a star, not with distance, but with the specific directness of a man describing someone he trusted, the way you trust a man who keeps his word when the word costs something. Her daughter listened. She was 7 years old. She was the age when things go in and stay. The house in the San Fernando Valley was sold in 1984, a year after Margaret died. The climbing roses were already past the top of the fence by then, and whoever bought the house kept them. John Wayne never said anything to any reporter in any interview at any point in the years that followed about Cliff Lyons or his widow or the arrangement that ran through Beau Ruse and the Batjack Productions letterhead. Not to his director. Not to his co-stars. Not to the biographers who interviewed him before he died in 1979. No letter has turned up. No record in any archive that connects the call to the man. What has turned up is the paperwork, the canceled checks, the Batjack Productions stationery, the backdated date of October 1st, and the notation in Beau Ruse's files, written in a hand that has never been formally attributed, next to the arrangement description. Cliff died being him. Settle it. There is a kind of man who notices the people a room has decided not to see, who looks at a column of numbers on a kitchen table and understands, without being asked, what they add up to, who picks up a phone before 8 in the morning, calls the right person, and never mentions it again to anyone. Those men don't make a ceremony of it. They don't need the ceremony. They already know what the numbers say. If this story reached you, share it with someone who deserves to hear it. Subscribe if you haven't. There are more stories like this one, and every one of them deserves to be told. And unfortunately, they don't make men like John Wayne anymore.